Raising a socially successful child. Conclusion. There are few things that make a parent's heart leap for joy. Quite like hearing your child say, "I made a new friend." Of course, you feel pleased for and proud of your child, but it's more than that. Learning that your child is liked by others will remind you of the happiness you experienced in childhood playing with friends, or perhaps of how painful it felt to be rejected or left out of the game. It's normal to feel sad or helpless when your child is struggling socially. After all, no parent wants their child to be unhappy, and it's all too easy to blame ourselves when we see that our child is in pain. It's also normal to be confused about when and how to intervene. Young children aren't expected to have mastered all the nonverbal skills that we as adults often take for granted. And it's not always easy to know whether a behavior you're witnessing is a cause for concern or merely a function of your child's age. Complicating matters further, some children are simply more introverted than others. And on the surface, not always clear whether a child sitting alone at recess feels excluded or is perfectly content reading a book alone instead of joining in on a game. But regardless of age, personality, or individual preferences, one truth is universal. Having friends and getting along with peers is central to children's present and future happiness. I am a scientist practitioner, which means that what I recommend professionally is based as much as possible on what is known through science and research. But I also am the oldest of 5 siblings and worked for years on playgrounds and had the unique pleasure of coaching under-8 soccer teams. Because I am a big brother, a father, and a grandfather, I know children don't always fit snugly into the theoretical and clinical boxes scientists say they should. Parenting is complicated, difficult, and not for the faint of heart. What I can say for sure is that you, as a parent, have the power to shape your child's future happiness in simple yet profound ways. Not so long ago, I was finishing up a meeting with a younger colleague who was also the mother of 2 young children, ages 4 and 6. I happened to mention I was writing a book about children the same age as hers to prepare them for a different world than the one she and I had experienced growing up. That's when she turned to me and with an anxious tone in her voice asked, "Dr. Nowicki, am I raising my children the right way?" She told me she had observed that other parents seemed to be spending their weekends driving their children around, rushing from one place to another, enrolling their kids in multiple activities, or taking them on expensive outings. But all I want to do when I have the time is to spend it with them, she said. Is that wrong? Is just being with them doing enough to prepare them for the future? Here's the answer I gave her. Yes, it's absolutely enough to prepare them for the future. When you put your phone away and spend time with your children doing the simplest of activities, like playing a board game, going to the park to throw a ball around, or taking a walk around the neighborhood, you are teaching them innumerable lessons about the language of relationships, which is nonverbal, and one of the most important things we can learn as human beings. It's very easy to feel the pressure of keeping up with other parents so your child doesn't miss out. So many parents I meet feel the need to get their children into the best nursery school, preschool, kindergarten, to enroll them in multiple after-school programs and camps, and to pack their kids' weekends with swim lessons and soccer games and art classes, fearful that if their sons and daughters don't begin developing these hobbies and skills early, in some cases very early, they will be locked out of the best colleges and universities. Although children can certainly benefit from good schools and some carefully chosen extracurricular activities, it can be easy to overlook how much children gain from unstructured, face-to-face time with family, friends, neighbors, and the wider community. The simple truth is that teaching most children to communicate nonverbally is well within the power and expertise of all parents. And children don't need to attend multiple classes and activities per week in order to learn the skills they need to succeed socially. The first step is to become aware of what nonverbal language is and why it matters. And the second step is to help your children become aware of this too. The third step is to model the kind of nonverbal language you would like your children to use. And involve them in activities and experiences that will reinforce what you are teaching them. It's really that simple, and it's really that important. Now more than ever, parents need to step up to help fill the learning gaps created by modern life. But you don't need to do it alone. Teachers, grandparents, extended family, and community members, in the form of babysitters, neighbors, coaches, and others, can also play a role. I still remember with enormous fondness the part that teachers, in particular, played in my own acquisition of nonverbal language. Thanks to them, I learned new ways of interacting with peers, many of whom behaved differently from the people I had gotten to know in my family and neighborhood. Under the guidance of these adults, I gradually became better at reading and expressing my feelings. Not only using words, but more importantly, in my facial expressions, tones of voice, and body language. What I learned at school, along with what I experienced at home, provided me with a foundation for the skills I needed to grow and thrive, both socially and academically, in the future. I hope teachers will read this book and come away with a better understanding of the crucial role they can play in this aspect of children's development. If you are a teacher reading this, thank you. You already do so much for our children. I hope this book will help you foster even greater connections with your students. Grandparents and other older members of the community can play an equally vital part. Recently, I had the pleasure of visiting a former colleague whose 6-month-old grandchild was staying with her at the time. I knew her as an accomplished academic, but now I was seeing her for the first time as a grandparent, bouncing her baby grandson on her knee, making silly faces and noises at him, and playing patty cake. No screens were involved, no technology was used, no passwords were needed to join. It was just a loving grandmother making faces and sounds varying in loudness and tone to make her grandson smile and giggle, holding his hands and guiding them back and forth as they clapped together. During these simple, loving interactions, the child was learning about all kinds of nonverbal communication, including turn-taking, rhythm, touch, and more. As grandparents, we're not always comfortable with technology, but this can turn out to be a strength because we are more likely to depend on old-fashioned, face-to-face interactions when we are with our grandchildren. My own grandchildren are teenagers now, but they still remember making silly faces at our dinner table or doing a happy dance when they came to visit us as young children. And what remains most vivid to them was not the words we used, but the nonverbal language we spoke when with them. Grandparents are a hidden resource for educating one's children in the use of nonverbal language. But they are not the only family members available to help. Uncles and aunts, cousins, and others may be gifted at interacting with your children in ways you may not be, further exposing your child to the nonverbal skills needed to connect and make friends. If you're not lucky enough to have close family living nearby, or even if you are, it's worth thinking about other ways that you can expand your child's community beyond immediate family. Children's learning can also benefit from interactions with peers and adults, especially those from all kinds of different racial and cultural backgrounds. Seek out opportunities for your child to be social with a diverse mix of people and in a diverse range of settings through playdates, playgroups, and other age-appropriate activities that involve meeting up with peers. Take care not to overschedule your child, however. You want to be able to give her the time and space to learn at her own pace. Let the interactions evolve, and don't rush your child as she learns new skills. Give her the opportunity to repeat interactions with others to establish effective patterns of communicating nonverbally. And never forget that you already have the tools you need to ensure your child has a happier future. With that in mind, before I leave you, here are some final tips for fostering healthy nonverbal communication in your child. The single most important thing for you to do during this phase is to spend time playing with your baby. Research dating back to the beginnings of the Head Start initiative in the 1960s has consistently found that infants who are spoken to, smiled at, and cuddled by their caregivers are more likely to be happy and socially adjusted in late childhood. Play provides opportunities for your baby not only to experience these nonverbal signs of affection, but also to learn the give and take of human interaction, a complex dance choreographed by nonverbal action. Take the time to tune into your baby's emotional states. Psychiatrist Daniel Siegel says that we are tuned into an infant's emotional state when we align our states, our primary emotions, through the sharing of nonverbal signals. To accomplish this connection, what Siegel calls resonance, you need to spend enough time observing your infant's facial expressions and body movements to be able to appropriately gauge feelings of frustration, fear, joy, and satisfaction. See the world from your baby's perspective. While it may seem a little silly, the act of seeing the world from your baby's physical perspective will help you to better understand his emotional perspective. I remember trying this out by lying down on the floor in my son's bedroom and staring up at his ceiling. It was remarkable how this point of view gave me insight into what my son was seeing on a daily basis. I nearly jumped a mile when my wife's face suddenly appeared above me, asking me why I was lying on the floor. I realized at that moment how different people's facial expressions and body movements can appear when they are looming over you. During early childhood, name that feeling and separate it from behavior. Just as much as parenting can be an emotional roller coaster, your very young child has his own emotions he's dealing with. When a child misbehaves, throws a tantrum, or becomes stubbornly defiant, most of this emotion is communicated nonverbally, through facial expressions, tone of voice, and body language. As a parent, it's important to focus on the nonverbal messages that accompanying this behavior. I see you have an angry face. Then identify the emotions they convey. I can tell you are feeling frustrated because you're clenching your fists. And discuss them with your child. When your child uses words to say he is angry, sad, anxious, or frightened, let him know you can see it in his face, posture, and gesture, and hear it in his voice as you offer him comfort. This helps him connect words to both feelings and nonverbal expression. Caregivers don't always have to be positive. Children need to know how to deal with negative feelings. Being an active father and grandfather has shown me that sometimes the most useful interactions with children deal with negative feelings, both mine and theirs. Attempting to be upbeat and positive all the time is an unattainable goal. Moreover, it's not always helpful to your child. Just because you don't want to yell or cry in front of him doesn't mean you need to keep your emotions to yourself. We know from research that our emotions leak out through our tone, facial expressions, and body language, regardless of how much we try to hold them inside. Children will sense these emotions whether you verbalize them or not. As parents, we are all familiar with those moments when we get angry or frustrated or we snap in irritation. Once you've calmed down, try to engage with your child again. Explain that you got angry or frustrated, but you've calmed down, using a warm tone of voice and a soothing rhythm, and reinforce these reassuring messages via touch. You can also take note of children's nonverbal responses to your outbursts and how they shift once you have talked it through. Use the 1 in 5 rule. The often offered idea of a 1 in 5 rule means giving your child at least 4 positive affirmations every 1 criticism. But there is no magic about 1 in 5 itself. The rule could be 1 in 3 or 1 in 7. Simply put, instead of being too eager to lead with criticism or point out what your child did wrong, you spend far more time accentuating and paying attention to what your child did right. Researchers have found that to be happy, people need more positives than negatives in their lives. When it comes to facial expressions, you can comment positively whenever you see your child succeeding in reading and communicating via this important nonverbal channel. I noticed you gave that girl a big smile. That must have made her feel good. I saw you looked right at Mom's new friend and gave her such a nice handshake. I bet it really made her feel welcome to our house. I saw you noticed that Billy looked sad about not being included in the game and went over to talk to him. Good for you. During later childhood, debrief with your child about his school day. When you ask your child about his school day, then listen to and sympathize with him as he recounts the day's events. Remember to resist the urge to correct and direct you as you did in early childhood. At this age, children must be given the freedom to make and learn from interpersonal mistakes in order to grow socially. Whenever possible, you can use these casual conversations as an opportunity to reinforce nonverbal learning. Research shows that children pick their friends very quickly on the basis of nonverbal indicators, often without much reflection or awareness. Discuss the nonverbal signals that may have drawn the child to a certain peer over another, a smiling face or nod of encouragement, a confident posture or presence, a shared rhythm or manner of speaking, and so on. Provide multiple contexts in which to socialize. Late childhood is a time for your child to experience a variety of situations with a variety of different people. Each of these represents an opportunity to experience different ways of relating and expressing himself nonverbally, and to pick up nuances that may not have been learned in infancy or early childhood within the family. After-school sports and activities can provide extremely useful exposure to this kind of nonverbal diversity. But it's a good idea to avoid enrolling your child in too many activities. This can end up being overwhelming for your child, leaving him no time to process what's been experienced. Just like adults, children have varying amounts of energy for social interaction. If your child resists these experiences because he is shy or socially anxious, you can encourage him by spending more time with people he already knows, such as cousins, before gradually introducing him to others who are less familiar with him. All right, let's read this. Acknowledgements. The irony is not lost on me that I've written 80,000 words and now want to acknowledge individuals who have helped to show that words may not be as important as we thought. To be certain, this book could not have been written without the foundational theorizing of Harry Stack Sullivan and the early research efforts of Paul Ekman, Irenaeus Ebel Absfeld, Ray Birdwhistell, Robert Rosenthal, and Judith Hall, among others, whose work legitimized the scientific study of nonverbal phenomena. I offer special thanks to Daniel Goldman, whose book Emotional IQ first brought the importance of nonverbal behavior and skill into public awareness. As I look back to see how I got to this place and to writing this book, I am reminded once more of the significance of relationships in my life. I begin with my parents and my relationship with them. Though both were supportive of me throughout my childhood, they related to me in very different ways. My mother spoke often using a mix of English and Italian words that made it difficult at times for me to comprehend exactly what she was trying to communicate. In contrast, my father rarely spoke at all. So as a child, and later as an adolescent and adult, I learned to pay attention to their other communications, tones of voice, gestures, postures, facial expressions, and the like, to understand how they felt and where I stood with them. I am in debt to my present family as well. My wife Karen, son Andy and his wife Jenny, Jenny's brother Jason, and my two grandchildren, Hannah Ruth and Soren. They have provided me love and support, as well as making me aware that there are countless ways to read and express emotions nonverbally over time and situations. I learned so much from watching my grandchildren's rudimentary skill in nonverbal communication grow with each passing year. But it was Karen who provided the stability and support when I needed it most. When I needed honest and useful criticism or loving support, it was to her and her alone that I have always turned. My first formal learning experience in nonverbal communication took place during my clinical psychology internship at Duke University Medical Center. My clinical supervisors, Robert C. Carson and Derek Shows, introduced me to the theorizing and clinical work of Harry Stack Sullivan, whose thinking centered on relationships and the significance of nonverbal communication in their growth or decline. My training with Carson and shows made me sensitive to what I and my clients were communicating in psychotherapy with our gestures, tones of voice, and facial expressions. I took this insight with me when I left my internship and accepted my first, and what turned out to be my only, academic position at Emory University. It was there I met Marshall P. Duke, and it was through my relationship with him that my ideas about nonverbal communication truly grew and blossomed. My partnership with Marshall led to research papers and books in which we expanded our thoughts about you know what? Forget this. I'm not reading the acknowledgments. Oh. So that's the book. Wow. That was pretty good. Raising a socially successful child. You know what though? I don't think this is only applicable to children. I think everybody is a child inside. I think we can have experiences, and we do have experiences that kind of color us and shape us. But that material that we're made out of, that inner child, that innocence, that pure energy remains with us through life. That's what the word native means. That's what natural healing is all about. It's tapping into that and allowing it to bring us back into balance. So I believe all these techniques are applicable in adult communication. So let's go back to the conclusion here and see if there's anything we can talk about. Don't do too much and process what you go through. That's something I've learned. I've seen authors talk about and content creators talk about when you go through a breakup, for example, or some traumatic experience. You can't busy yourself to avoid processing. You have to give yourself the space, the opportunity, and the time to deal with those emotions. This one triggers me a little bit. The single most important thing for you to do during this phase is to spend time playing with your baby. This is number one. Okay, so you have an expert in nonverbal communication, which is the primary mode of communication. So more important than anything you can say, more important than anything you can do to build a relationship with somebody is to spend time together physically. And I knew this intuitively before I read this book. Because, I have to talk about my experience with my son being divorced from his mom and losing that physical connection to him for going on 15 years now. We see each other once in a while. It's not enough. So that relationship is, I would call it an anti-relationship, where he sees me in the stands at his volleyball game, but he doesn't want to interact with me. He just wants to know that I'm there. He doesn't want to talk to me. He's very, I think the word is snide, snarky, like his mom, sarcastic, generally, with me, negative. And yet he continues to look to me to see that I'm there for him. So it gives me hope that one day I'll be able to be with him again. And I don't know, just to go off on a little bit of a side tangent, when I first met him, he was surgically removed from his mother and put in my arms. And I looked in his eyes, and I saw my own eyes. It wasn't a mirror. Something about life is magical, mystical. I'm not initiated in any secret society, but I understand that there's certain things that can only be explained through metaphor. So when I looked into his eyes, I wasn't looking in a mirror. I was looking in my own eyes. So as a story, as a lifelong journey of knowledge, of self-knowledge, I wonder, one day I'll figure it out, what is the meaning of me being separated from myself, from my son, from my S-O-N, from my S-U-N. Why have I been separated? Whether you can blame me like people blame me, or sometimes I blame myself, or you can say just things work out in God's time, and they always work out the way they're supposed to, and only the way that they can. What's the meaning behind a man being separated from his soul? Is it something to do with what my teacher calls the name? That we're given a number at birth and treated by the world as a stock, as a piece of paper, that a corporate officer known as a policeman can violate your body and your spirit by following a statute or a code. And how do I get my son back? Is by this is what I have to figure out. How do I get my son back? How do I get myself back? How do I get reunited with my name? How do I take ownership of my birth certificate and my corporate ID. I believe that's what my teacher, Dr. Jubb, is trying to teach me. Justine says, life lessons unfold as we are ready to accept the answers, is what my mentor used to say. Yeah, they unfold, right? Well, I am patient. No choice. No matter how much I thrash and gnash and scream and cry, it doesn't move destiny the width of one hair. So, but it gives me hope, that by spending time together, we can build something, build on something that's already there. Share experiences, create chemical bonds, memories, and activities to move forward. I was taught that's what romance is. Romance is having something to look forward to together. See the world from your baby's perspective. Okay, this one's a little technical. What I learned was communicating with someone, you want to get down to their level. So when you talk to a child, crouch. When you give someone a hug, if you're tall, bend down with them. Some people like to be hugged. They like to be enveloped, but not arched backwards. It's a little uncomfortable. And as a metaphor, I would say me being tasked as a medicine person for the next generation, the younger people. I'm doing what I can. Not that it's difficult, because I'm generally immature, but I'm doing what I can to be someone that is attractive to young people through my behavior. That I don't act like normal adults by telling kids what to do and being boring. I'm kind of edgy. Maybe. Here's one. Caregivers don't always have to be positive. This one is another tough one for me because I've had such little interaction with my kids. And because of the court taking visitation away when I yelled at their mom and putting me under psychiatric evaluation for yelling, I was traumatized to be soft and not make any waves anymore and just kind of be like a slave whipped along and just being happy with what I got, which was a little time here and there, being supervised and playing with my kids, but not being able to parent them, just being almost like a prop in a room, and never sticking up for what I believe in front of them, in front of their mom, in front of my parents, and watching them literally poison them on a daily basis with junk food, drugs, including vaccinations. Shoot, I don't know if I could say that. And seeing their health, what's the opposite of health? If you take it to its extreme, it's death. And that is the most traumatizing and painful thing that somebody can go through in life. It's been studied, the loss of a child. So don't worry, I'll delete this part of the video. I'm just gonna cut it off at the end of the reading, because people get upset with me for continuing to revisit my trauma, but it's just how I see the world now. But let's see. Debrief with your child about his school day. That's what we're doing right now. And provide multiple contexts in which to socialize. Ooh, different kind of streams, different kind of people, different activities. I'm looking forward to these type of things. Justine says, these books also seem to be validating that you are communicating with your children in healthy ways, even if it's for temporary time. Anything is something, I guess. And it all matters. It all adds up somehow, some way. Better to light one candle than curse the darkness. And yet one candle can only do so much. Let's also be realistic. That damage done is damage done. And a scar is a scar. But can't dwell on it. I mean, you can, but it doesn't serve you, or me, or anyone. So we have to learn, take these things, and grow, and fight for the future. A. Marks, I'm fresh out of a 45-minute sauna, so I'm not very tense. The depression's still there if I think about it, but I'm also 2 days into a fast, so I'm happy about that. I had a broth soup yesterday, a couple of hours before bed, and I woke up in the middle of the night with digestive pain. Something was moving, and I think it's a good thing. It felt like feelings that I get when doing my liver flush. So I might be the only person to tell you that I'm actually going to look at what's in the bowl next time I go to the bathroom, because I'm curious. Yeah, I definitely turned a corner, Marks. I'm gonna take what Justine said, that it had something to do with the moon. Of course, I have compounding variables about the things I have gone through and my physical condition. But I think I'm in the clear. But thanks for asking. I know that's why you were asking, because I remember you being here for the debacle that was my attitude last week. Jody, apply to be your own sovereign country to own self. Yeah, there's a lot of different, not a lot, there's a few different methods of what you're talking about. My teacher doesn't use the word sovereign. He told me he has 17 documents that you file, but it does accomplish the same thing like what you're saying, which is owning your being the owner of a perfected title, is what he calls it. Being the owner of a perfected title. You've been thinking about me? I appreciate it, man. Or a woman. I'm not sure how you identify, but I appreciate it. Justine, which the moon and when it's full definitely affects those other things as well. Yeah, magnetism, right? Very attractive. Or repellent. What is it? The moon attracts, right? I bet it does. Yeah, baby, yeah. So, I've been thinking about you. I've had some ups and downs too and was hoping you're doing okay. All right. Well, look, I'm sorry I hope I didn't trigger you. I hope I didn't make you lose hope or whatever. I am trying to be a health coach, so it's a little bit embarrassing to be such a sad sack in public. But I can't go in the past. I can't undo what I did. I can only learn and grow, right? And so I take it as a necessary obstacle that had to be traversed, and I'm stronger for it. Nothing to apologize for. You're incredibly helpful. Thank you. I'm definitely doing my best. So what I'm going to do later today at 12:30, I'm meeting my trainer in New York City. He's another Depeche Mode. You've been thinking of me too? He's another excuse me, life food certified health coach, but has a specialty in kettlebells. He's a kettlebell expert. So I'm going to meet him for an outdoor training. I'm bringing this camera, although it's not going to be a live stream. It's going to be a recorded workout with kettlebells, and the trainer's going to be mic'd up. So we're going to release that on my channel as a follow along instructional workout, and hopefully give him the opportunity and ability to become an online coach, because he's helping me and I want to help him as well. Justine says, people really want authenticity now, and you being real will help them with their journey more than you pretending you don't have rough days. Will, just saying. All right. Cool. Thanks, Justine. You're RKC certified? What does that mean, Depeche Mode? What does RKC mean? I'll look it up, actually, unless you want to type it. What is RKC certification? Oh, nice. Very cool. Anything is something. That's pretty sweet, Depeche Mode. Where do you live again? I'm going on tour. Maybe I'll come through. Are you Jersey? It's going to be on the way back. Yeah, you are an angel, Justine. Now I see why you put that halo over your head all the time. Opposites attract. I guess that's why I'm pure evil. Scottsdale. Oh, right on. I'm going to Arizona for sure. I don't know if it's going to be before or after California though, because I'm trying to make an efficient trip. So if I'm going north to Maine, which I am, and then going west, I'll probably loop down through California, and then Arizona, Nevada, Texas, southern U.S., yada yada yada. Come back to New York. That's the tentative plan. I really only have one destination right now. It's called the White Mountains. I'm going to do a vision quest. Get some divine guidance. So, yeah, it's coming up on an hour. I'm going to end the stream. If anybody has any suggestions on books, the one I'm thinking of right now is called The Aquatic Ape. I'm looking at it. But I have a few books. There's The Origin of Language, which I might do. I might do them both. We'll see. I've got 2 extra bedrooms. We can train here. Awesome. The Power of Now. That's cool. I want to do a book that's not well known. Like this book, it just came out. M.M. Jackson, hi. This book came out March 2024. So you're probably not going to hear about this book. The Power of Now, everybody knows about. Not that I'm not going to read it, but just as far as a book that I'm going to be sharing, I want something that people, it will be new and fresh for them. So I have a book up here, The Origin of Language and The Aquatic Ape. There's those. We'll see though, we'll see. I'll figure it out over the weekend and start a new one on Monday. If anybody wants to connect with me offline, feel free to check my about on YouTube. I'm pretty sure it has all my contact info there, but if not, you can go to my website, masterluki.com. Once Upon an Upset is a new, lesser-known book that's about childhood stuff. Okay. I'll look it up. Once Upon an Upset is an illustrated collection of stories, insights, and reflections to help parent our children while reparenting ourselves. Ooh. Once Upon an Upset podcast. I know whatever book you pick is going to be perfect for whatever's going on right now with all of us. You know it. And I know it too, because I know you and I, we're tapped in to the same ether. And I'm really thankful that you've been here. Justine every day, everybody else now, then, in the future, whenever. And like I said, hit me up anytime. Social media, email, cell phone. Let's see. Let me check Spotify for this. You have a good day too, Marks. Once Upon an Upset. Depeche. Whoops. Shout out Depeche. Listen, Justine's here every day, bro. You see her here once in a while. Obviously, she's gonna get a little bit more special treatment. It's not just because she's a hot chick. All right. There's other people that I shout out that identify as male, like Rick, for example. Rick Salazar is my oldest viewer. He's been here since I was in the basement 10 years ago. So here you go. Once Upon an Upset podcast. Episode 70. Wow. Going strong. Don't get a sex change though, Depeche. I've been reading a lot about these kids who go through that, and it doesn't really work out long term. You always here in the afternoon? All right, that's good to know. I don't think I'm going to be able to get on later because the workout's at 12:30. It's 10 o'clock now, so I got to start looking at trains because it's going to take a train and a subway to get there. It's in the city, in a park. Thomas Jefferson Park in New York City. You could look it up. Then we'll probably work out for an hour or two. Then I'm going to take the train back to see my son's volleyball game. That's at 5 o'clock in Floral Park. Jody from Colorado. Make sure we stay in contact, Jody. I know I already told you this, but I want to come. I've been to Colorado. I've been to Boulder. Salt Lake City and Boulder. I spent time in what is it called? Sugar Hill? Sugar Hill in Salt Lake City and Boulder. And I really liked it. The people out in Colorado they're different. They're definitely different from New York, and they're different from California. There's something out there, especially near that vortex point where the 4 states meet. So if you're here and you're talking about the things that you're talking about, I think we're gonna vibe. So definitely stay in touch. And if all this happens like I say, it's like I believe it's going to, me traveling, you'll see on the stream and stuff. So I'm not worried about it. I'm just reminding you to remind me. So thank you. Volleyball game. Yeah, volleyball's pretty fun. They're only JV, so it's I wouldn't call it technical, and some of the kids are pretty bad, but it's still exciting, the rallies and stuff. The Four Corners is where the Anasazi once was. Or are they still? See, I think Native Americans are... You know how Jews say that they're a race and a religion? That's what I think. I think being a native is something that I can be, even though my recent ancestors came over on boats from Italy. I was born here in this land, and so I identify as native. You never had the makings of a varsity athlete, junior soprano. Okay. Yeah, it's still exciting, the volleys. There's some good saves, and of course, I want my sons to be happy with their accomplishments. So I cheer. My son was going like this to me when I was cheering last game, because every time one of our guys serves and the other team don't return it, I go, A-C-E, ace. Even if they almost return it and it's technically not an ace, I still do it. And I was at their away games. Sometimes I'm the only one cheering. So he's like, stop. I'm like, yeah, come on. Embarrassing. I'll ask him today, if he wants me to, because I don't want to embarrass him, but. Second Ring of Power, Carlos Castaneda. What's that? Second Ring of Power, Carlos Castaneda. Oh, there it is. Overview. Carlos Castaneda takes the reader into the very heart of sorcery, challenging both imagination and reason, shaking the very foundations of our belief in what is natural and logical. Ooh. Back from the abyss, Castaneda encounters his greatest test on the journey towards impeccability and freedom. To outwit and overpower the sorcery of Doña Soledad, herself transformed from a defeated and meaningless life to a warrior, a hunter, and a stalker of power. Now the combat will begin. Now the journey will continue, till the last danger is faced, the final paradox embraced. So this is a fiction? I need a hot shower. Let me see if there's a YouTube that I can watch. Second Ring of Power, Carlos Castaneda. Ooh, 11 hours. Book review. Okay, 5 minutes. Start with that one. I have a Ring of Power right here. It's 3D printed. It's my logo as a championship belt. Cha-ching!